Hi YouTube, my handle's Lord of Diamonds. So one of my YouTube heroes, if you will, is Lill. He's this guy on YouTube who, over the last year or so, has been doing all these tested videos in which he goes through the various elements of an electric guitar chain, the guitar, the amplifier, the speaker cabinet, and attempts to figure out which parts of the chain are the most responsible for the overall tonal characteristic of the guitar sound. These videos have been tremendously eye-opening for both me and a whole lot of other people in the online guitar community, and I have a massive amount of respect for Jim for a couple reasons. First of all, for just how well the videos are put together and edited, how meticulous the testing is, and two, Jim's perspective, which is rather unique in the online guitar world, in that he is a country musician. I don't know why this pattern in the YouTube guitar community exists, but like, if you see like an amp sim being demoed or something, then chances are you're gonna see it demoed in a metal setting. Premium courses, such as the ones offered by Glenn Fricker and Cola Keller Studio on mixing music and producing it, are geared towards heavy music. It's just a pattern that I've noticed in the online guitar community where it seems to be largely metal oriented. So Jim's perspective as a country musician is very refreshing. I guess maybe it's because lighter variants of music like classic rock and country, they have a more traditionalist mindset to them, so people who play them are more wont to use actual hardware and, just do things the dirty way by using real amps and cabs and figuring out stuff on their own, I guess. So Jim's got a different perspective than the typical YouTube guitarist that you see, and I really respect and appreciate that. But he's broken the traditionalist amps and cabs only mold a little bit by releasing a package of impulse responses that he made from a few cabinets that he owns. 3 of them are actual session cabinets used by well-known session guitarists in Nashville. And the 4th one is a cabinet that he made himself to copy a cabinet from his favorite guitar player that he liked very much. So because I like what Jim does and I want to support what he does, I'm gonna finally check out this impulse response pack. This video is gonna be a couple of parts. First, since Jim plays with a wildly different set of sounds than I do, I'm going to try to make my own lighter full mix demo so that you can hear how it sounds in that context. And then, I'm going to go into the DAW, break things down, and do some heavier stuff that's more akin to what I usually do for my sound demos. But I'm going to kick things off with the full lighter mix. Fun fact about me, I didn't grow up playing rock or metal music. I grew up playing Appalachian folk music, which is the ancestor of what we know today as country music. So, you might say that I've got some country in me. So I'm going to go ahead and record that lighter demo, and I'm gonna do a little shortened version of a song by a country or country adjacent artist that I really appreciate. So here we go. Enjoy my shortened version of Jason Isbell's "Flying Over Water."
From the sky we look so organized and brave. Walls that make up barricades and graves. Daddy's little empire built by ants and built by slaves. From the sky we look so organized and brave. In the heat I saw you rising from the dirt, drunken tears and tugging at your skirt. If only you could tell me then what part of you got hurt. In the heat I saw you rising from the dirt. Take my hand, baby, we're overland. I know flying over
Alright, let's take a look at that in the DAW now. Also, I'm trying out a face cam during these segments because maybe it'll add a bit more imagery to the otherwise boring video feed and make it a little less tedious to watch, because I'm with you. I know these DAW breakdown segments are boring, but, you know, I can't just play you some music no context. I gotta talk about how I made it. So as usual, I'll get the non-guitar stuff out of the way first. Slate drums, as always, on the drums. I actually attempted to record real drums for this, but they ended up sounding terrible. For the bass, I didn't want to do the typical clanky dangle, as Cola Color Studio would say, bass tone that I do for all of my other demos, because, you know, this type of music doesn't really call for it. I wanted to do that more warm finger tone instead, because I played it with my fingers too. So I used Guitar Rig's Ampeg bass amp sim for the bass tone. And then I just slammed the low end with a multi-band compressor. And now we get into the guitars, the real meat and potatoes of the demo and the reason why I made the video. So I've got Guitar Rig going again for the guitar tones. Got the Marshall Super Lead emulation going on. I've got two different tones dialed in. This is my less distorted tone. It's a little bit cleaner because, you know, I've got this part where I dig in. Then I've got this part where I kind of have to get it to clean up a bit. I'm probably the guitarist with the worst control of dynamics that I know of. I only have one dynamic setting, and that's very loud. So this comparatively simple part was rather difficult for me to play. It was a little bit new because, you know, I had to adapt to the amplifier and make this part sound sort of clean, but, you know, still have enough bite in it for it to sound like this. And for extra dirt, whenever this riff comes around, I have the Tube Screamer emulation giving me a little bit more dirt. Now for the impulses, going with the original track, I wanted this guitar track to be a little bit darker than this one, which is my more distorted track. So for the darker one, I'm using both impulses from the JL cab. That's the Jim Lill custom cab that he made to copy the custom cab belonging to JT Cornfloss, which was open-backed on one side and closed-backed on the other side. I'll just pan that to the center, let you hear a little bit of it. Now this track, this is my brighter, more distorted track. I'm still using the Super Lead emulation for the amp and Guitar Rig, but I've got the settings a little bit more intense this time. I've got the treble and presence cranked. I've got the gain turned up a little bit more. Now for the impulses on this one, I'm just using one impulse from the JT 2007 cabinet. Now according to Jim's website, that would mean that I'm using the impulse of a Celestion G12H30. I'm not sure if that means the G12H30 anniversary speaker or, you know, the G12H30 greenback, but it certainly is pretty bright and thin sounding. For reference, this is what the right one sounds like, which is according to the website, Celestion Alnico Gold. It's a little bit less spiky, and it's probably what I would use if I was just trying to make a tone on its own merits. But I did want the bright sound for this, so you have these different characters of guitar tones in the left and right speaker. So yeah, this one's got a lot more bite to it, but it's also more scooped. So that's all well and good, but with these kind of guitar tones, these less driven guitar sounds that aren't typical metal sounds, to me anyway, probably just because I'm not that familiar with the music, everything seems to blend together. Same with different guitar speakers and guitar cabinets, with clean tones. In order to really get a feel for the character of a guitar cabinet, you kind of have to push it with a truly high gain sound. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to make another demo track that I can use as a test bed for putting these impulse responses on truly heavy guitar sounds. If anything, it's going to be a unique sound because none of these speakers are speakers that you find in typical impulse response packs that are sold to metal guitarists, with the exception of the JL cabinet, which does have a vintage 30 in it. But other than that, all of these speakers are kind of non-standard, so that's interesting. All right, I'm going to record the demo. Not going to do a playthrough video for it, though. Playthrough videos are kind of tedious to film and edit, so you're just going to get more DAW footage. Alright, here we've got the heavy mix. This is a song that I've been trying to work on for the last couple months, but I've just never really been able to finish it because I'm very bad at finishing songs. You get the gist of it. So, over on the guitar group track, once again, we've got Guitar Rig going, this time in stereo mode, running on both guitar tracks, left and right. We've got the Tube Screamer emulation again, and the 5150 amp emulation. I have the Rectifier emulation in here as well, but to be honest, I like the sound of the 5150 emulation more. I'm not trying to create scumbag tone here, so I could do without an emulation of a scumbag amp. In the original mix, I was using the cabinet that came with the Rectifier emulator, but I turned that off, and instead I am using both impulses from the TB cabinet. That's the cabinet that Tom Bukovac owned with Celestion G1265s in it from the early 80s, I think. I think that these two impulses from the TB cab are the closest that you're going to get with this impulse pack to like a typical metal sound. And of course, the left and right ones sound very different, so there's tons of potential for making character even with just the two impulses. If I was just going to use one of these, the TB left one is probably the one that I would go with first. But while I've got the setup open and I've got these tracks up, I want to show off how different these can sound if you just reconfigure them and switch them up with different combinations. So I'm just gonna cycle through these impulses while I play the guitar part. So I'm gonna go all the way over to the JL left impulse. I want to check out how this would sound if I were to use the JT 1996 impulses, because these ones have a really interesting character. It kind of reminds me of the guitar tone from Bolt Thrower's Realm of Chaos album. That album has a very characteristic honk to its guitar tone, and this kind of reminds me of it. Yeah, that's real interesting. How does it sound in the full mix, though? Oh, it does sound neat. Maybe I could do with a little bit of a volume drop to compensate, but that does sound neat. What speakers were used in this one? Both 1996 Mojo Tone M12B speakers. I don't think I've ever really heard of Mojo Tone speakers. I need to check out more speaker manufacturers that aren't Celestion, Jensen, and Warehouse guitar speakers, because I know that they do exist. But, you know, it seems like pretty much every speaker in a guitar cabinet or a combo amp these days is either a Celestion or a Jensen. Let's see how well the JL impulses play with this. Actually, you know what? Let me duplicate this Nader plugin so that I can run it with the TB impulses just as my reference, and I'll alternate between them. So this is what the TB sounds like. Gotta say, I still prefer the TB cabinet. The JL one sounds a little bit, like, doled. It sounds a bit flatter, that's what I should say. But, you know, when you're recording heavy guitars, flat isn't necessarily good, because, you know, you kind of want a presence boost at, like, 3 to 4K to make things come through. But not too much. It can be excessive. It can get way excessive real quick. The TB one does it in a tasteful way, I think. That's what I like to call tastefully bright. Let's look at the JT 2007 one. What speakers were in this one? Oh yeah, this was the one that I was using in the less heavy demo. A Matchless branded Celestion G12H30. Again, I don't know if that's a G12 anniversary speaker or a 30-watt G12H greenback. And then there's the Alnico Gold. That Alnico Gold sounds pretty neat. I might have to get my hands on one of those someday. I've heard tell that the Celestion Alnico Blue speakers are actually kind of a hidden gem for metal music, even though, you know, classic rock people love them because they're what came in AC30s and still do come in some AC30s. I guess they're not really practical for metal because, you know, they have an extraordinarily low power rating when compared to many other speakers that are used in metal music. But anyway, this is how the JT 2007 cab sounds. Nah, I don't like that one very much. It's kind of thin sounding. I would much rather take the TB cab or the JT 1996 cab. Yeah, holy crap. I can't get over how good that TB cab sounds, man. Like, I'm gonna have to get my hands on some G12 65 speakers from the 80s or something, see if I can get some of those sounds in my own cabinets, maybe. I'm gonna try switching it up and, like, playing around with just different impulses from different cabinets. I've got the TB left and JT 1996 one loaded so far. Okay, that's way too dark. That's kind of a cool mix. You got a little bit of phase cancellation up in the top end, which results in slightly less harshness, if that's what you're after, but, you know, it's still decently bright enough. What if I was to do the right one? That one's kind of neat, I guess. The left speaker in the JL cabinet is the Vintage 30. According to Jim's website, it's from 2001. How does this sound by itself? I think this gives credit to the uniqueness of this pack. Like, even the Vintage 30 impulse doesn't even really sound that much like what we think of when we think of a Vintage 30. This is a really unique impulse response pack if what you're used to is like metal and rock and stuff. And again, the reason why I think impulses of this kind don't really exist is because the people who use these speakers, the people who just put whatever in their cabinets and don't really fuss over it as much as, you know, metal and rock guitarists are wont to do, they don't use impulse responses. They don't use digital stuff because they have a more traditionalist mindset when it comes to guitar. So you're getting this perspective, but in impulse response form, and it's got tons of potential for sounds that have a lot more character than the typical impulses that are sold to metal players. What could I combine this one with? What does it need? It needs more brightness. I'd like it to be brighter. Let's try adding the JT 2007 right impulse into it. That's not really it. Let me try a different one. Okay, that one sounds kind of neat, the JL left one next to the TB right one. But still, I don't think any of these combinations that I've come across so far are going to beat just the TB cab with both of its impulses. Not in metal, anyway. I mean, that is... Again, it's as close as you're going to get in this impulse response pack to a typical metal sound. But yeah, that's pretty cool. I think I've explored about as much as I want to explore with this pack. Can it be used for metal? Yes. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say can it be used for metal, because anything can be used for metal. Anything can be used for any type of music, really. I don't like pigeonholing certain pieces of equipment or certain sounds into certain genres, because if you think like, does this piece of gear work for metal? Does this piece of gear work for country? If you think like that, then you're just going to gravitate towards the same stuff. You're going to gravitate towards received wisdom, and your stuff is going to sound less different from everything else than it could. So, it's a good impulse response pack, and I dug it, and I think you would dig it as well if you're looking for an impulse response pack that's different and is very usable. Can be used to give you some tones that are more unique in the realm of impulse responses. That's all I've got to say. Sorry this video is a little bit more boring than what I usually do, but if you enjoyed it, then please like it. Tell me what you thought about the sounds that I got. If you're an owner of this impulse response pack, if you're gonna pick it up, then tell me about that. Tell me about your own speaker and cabinet experience, as always. If you really like what you see, then subscribe to the channel, because I've got a lot of things cooking. I've got a lot of video ideas planned, but unfortunately, it's just a matter of whether or not I have the money to buy everything that I need for them. So that's all I have to say. Till next time, everybody, Diamond out.